Welcome to Build Strong Habits podcast channel. Sit back, relax, take your eyes off the screen, and listen. Just listen to this audio podcast, and let's start building habits that transform our life.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're tackling something I think we all struggle with at least a little bit, and that is how to finally break those bad habits that are holding us back from becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, those habits that we all have that we wish you could just snap our fingers and make disappear.
Right, exactly.
It's so easy to get caught up in the idea that breaking a bad habit is just a matter of willpower, but I think we both know it's a lot more complicated than that.
Way more complicated. So today, we're going to really try to understand the psychology behind habit formation and explore some practical strategies for making real lasting changes.
Because it's not just about getting rid of the bad stuff, it's also about replacing it with positive habits that actually support our well-being and help us thrive.
Yeah, I love that. We'll talk about all that and more right after this quick break.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into the fascinating world of habit change. But before we get into specific strategies, I think it's important to understand why bad habits develop in the first place. Absolutely, because, often we try to tackle bad habits as if they're simply a matter of willpower. But the truth is, they're often rooted in deeper emotional needs. It's like our brains are wired to seek comfort, even if it comes in the form of unhealthy behaviors.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So instead of beating ourselves up for lacking willpower, we need to understand what's driving those habits in the first place.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Habits, even bad ones, often act as coping mechanisms for uncomfortable emotions. Let's say you find yourself constantly scrolling through social media. It might seem like a harmless distraction, but it could be a way of avoiding feelings of loneliness or boredom.
Whoa, that's a real aha moment for me. I
Right.
never thought of it that way. So identifying those emotional triggers is the first step towards real change.
Absolutely. And here's a key insight from the latest research. Instead of trying to eliminate a habit cold turkey, the secret is to replace it with a healthier behavior that satisfies that same need.
So it's not about deprivation, it's about finding a more positive outlet. That sounds way more sustainable than just trying to white-knuckle my way through it.
Exactly. For example, if stress eating is your nemesis, try replacing that bag of chips with a quick walk or a few minutes of meditation or even calling a friend. You're still addressing that need for stress relief, but in a way that actually benefits you.
Okay, that's a game changer. It's about rewiring those neural pathways, right? Finding a new go-to response that doesn't sabotage your goals.
You got it. And you know what else is fascinating? The environment plays a huge role in shaping our habits. Have you ever noticed how certain places or times of day make it harder to resist those temptations?
Oh, absolutely. Like if I'm working from home and my phone's right there on the couch, forget about getting anything done. It's like a magnet for mindless scrolling.
Exactly. Our brains are wired to associate certain cues with specific behaviors. That's why it's so important to become aware of those environmental triggers and make conscious changes to support your goals.
So it's like setting yourself up for success by rearranging your surroundings. Instead of relying solely on willpower, you're creating an environment that nudges you in the right direction.
Precisely. Remove those tempting snacks from your pantry. Put your phone in another room and make those healthy choices the easy choices.
I love how practical and actionable this is. It's not just about understanding the psychology of habits. It's about taking concrete steps to shift those patterns.
And you know what else can supercharge your success? Sharing your goals with someone you trust, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a mentor. Having that external accountability can make a huge difference.
I'm a big believer in that. When I was trying to establish a regular writing routine, telling my friend about it kept me honest. Knowing someone else was aware of my commitment made me way less likely to hit the snooze button.
There's actually some fascinating research on this. Studies have shown that people who publicly announce their goals or enlist a support buddy are significantly more likely to achieve them.
That's so cool. It's like that added layer of motivation knowing you're not in it alone. And speaking of motivation, let's talk about the power of visualization.
Visualization, it's more than just wishful thinking. It's a technique that can actually rewire your brain for success.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about how it works.
When you vividly imagine yourself achieving a goal or engaging in a new habit or overcoming a challenge, you're essentially creating a mental blueprint for your future self. It's like a dress rehearsal for your brain, strengthening those neural pathways that lead to the desired outcome.
So it's about painting a picture of success in your mind, and that actually helps make it a reality.
Exactly. The more you visualize yourself succeeding, the more your brain believes it's possible, and the more likely you are to take the actions that make it happen.
That's powerful stuff. It's like giving yourself a mental advantage.
And that brings us to another important element of habit change, self-compassion. We all know how easy it is to be our own worst critics, especially when we stumble or don't make progress as quickly as we'd like.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that. I can be way too hard on myself sometimes.
The key is to remember that setbacks are a normal part of the process. Nobody's perfect, and we're all bound to slip up occasionally.
So it's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend who's struggling.
Exactly. Instead of beating yourself up, acknowledge the slip up without judgment, learn from it, and then get back on track. It's about turning those setbacks into stepping stones rather than roadblocks.
I love that shift in perspective. It's about viewing those slip-ups as opportunities for growth rather than failures.
Absolutely. And here's a practical tip from the research. When you do experience a setback, try using but statements to reframe those negative thoughts.
But statements. I'm curious to hear how those work.
Instead of saying, I messed up, I'm never going to break this habit, try saying, I indulged a little more than I planned today, but I'm learning to make healthier choices and I'm back on track tomorrow.
That's so smart. It's like you're acknowledging the slip-up without letting it define you or derail your progress.
Exactly. It's about shifting your focus from the setback itself to the bigger picture of your journey and your commitment to growth.
And speaking of tracking progress, I've always found that keeping a journal or using a habit tracking app helps me stay motivated.
Tracking is a fantastic tool for increasing awareness and reinforcing positive behavior. It's like shining a light on those unconscious patterns, making them visible and easier to manage.
Plus, it's so rewarding to look back and see how far you've come. It's a great way to celebrate those small wins, which I think is super important.
Absolutely. Celebrating those small victories, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is crucial for maintaining motivation and momentum. It's like giving yourself a pat on the back for each step forward.
And speaking of stepping forward, this next topic really resonates with me, the inevitable slip-up. Let's be honest, when it comes to breaking bad habits, setbacks are practically guaranteed.
It's true. Habits are deeply ingrained patterns, and even with the best intentions, there will be times when we revert to old behaviors.
So how do we navigate those moments without feeling like we've failed completely?
The key is to view those slip-ups not as failures, but as opportunities for learning and growth. They provide valuable insights into our triggers, our weaknesses, and areas where we need to refine our strategies.
That's such a helpful reframing. It's like turning those setbacks into valuable data points that can inform our approach moving forward.
Exactly. Instead of getting discouraged, ask yourself, okay, what happened there? What triggered this slip up? And how can I approach similar situations differently next time?
It's about turning those setbacks into learning moments rather than letting them derail our progress.
Precisely. And that leads us to another crucial aspect of habit change, the power of small, sustainable steps. Trying to overhaul everything overnight is often a recipe for overwhelm and burnout.
I've definitely been there. It's like trying to climb Mount Everest in one giant leap. It's not realistic.
Instead, focus on making gradual, incremental changes that you can realistically stick with over time. It's like building a house brick by brick, laying a solid foundation for lasting change.
So instead of going cold turkey on sugar, maybe I start by cutting back on sugary drinks and gradually reduce my dessert intake.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those larger goals into smaller, more manageable steps that feel less daunting and more achievable. And as you experience success with those smaller steps, your confidence grows and the process feels less overwhelming.
It's amazing how much psychology is involved in breaking bad habits. It's not just about willpower, it's about understanding how our brains work and using that knowledge to our advantage.
And speaking of leveraging our brain power, let's delve into a technique that can be incredibly helpful in navigating those tricky moments when cravings strike and willpower feels like it's fading mindfulness.
This is where it gets really interesting. I've heard so much about mindfulness, but I'm still not quite sure I understand how it applies to breaking bad habits.
Mindfulness is about bringing awareness to your thoughts, feelings, and sensations in the present moment without judgment. It's like hitting the pause button on autopilot and becoming a curious observer of your internal experience.
So instead of mindlessly reaching for that bag of chips when I'm stressed, mindfulness would help me pause, acknowledge the urge, and then make a conscious choice about how to respond.
Exactly. It's about creating that space between stimulus and response, giving yourself the power to choose a different path.
It's like becoming the CEO of your own mind. making conscious decisions about how you want to respond to those internal and external triggers.
Precisely. And the more you practice mindfulness, the stronger that CEO muscle becomes. You develop greater self-awareness and the ability to choose actions that align with your values and goals rather than being controlled by those automatic habits.
Wow, that's a powerful image. I'm starting to see how mindfulness can be a game changer in this whole process.
And you know, it's really fascinating. Mindfulness can actually help you identify the root cause of those urges, the underlying emotions that are driving the habit in the first place.
So instead of just trying to suppress the urge, you're digging deeper to understand what's fueling it.
Exactly. By paying attention to your internal experience, you might notice that certain emotions like stress, anxiety, or boredom tend to trigger those habit impulses.
That makes so much sense. So instead of reaching for that cigarette when I'm feeling stressed, mindfulness might help me realize that what I actually need is a few minutes of quiet time to decompress or a chat with a friend.
Precisely. It's about addressing the underlying need rather than just masking it with the habit. And that brings us back to the concept of habit replacement that we discussed earlier.
Right. It's about finding healthier alternatives that provide a similar benefit or meet that same need in a more positive way.
And mindfulness can be a powerful tool in that process. By becoming aware of the urge, you can then consciously choose to engage in that new, healthier behavior.
It's like creating a new pathway in your brain, a new default response to those triggers. And the more you practice that new behavior, the stronger that pathway becomes, making it easier to resist the old habit.
Exactly. It's like building a mental muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of our deep dive.
Wow, I can't believe how much we've covered already. I'm feeling so much more empowered to tackle those bad habits.
We've laid a solid foundation, and in part 2, we'll continue exploring the power of mindfulness and delve into some practical strategies for managing cravings, building resilience, and staying motivated on this journey of transformation.
Welcome back to our deep dive into breaking those pesky bad habits. In part 1, we uncovered some fascinating insights about the psychology behind habits and how mindfulness can help us become the CEOs of our own minds. I'm excited to delve even deeper and learn more practical strategies for making lasting change.
It's amazing how much power we have over our habits when we understand the underlying mechanisms at play, and mindfulness really is a game changer. It allows us to shift from being on autopilot to becoming conscious creators of our experiences.
I love that. So we've talked about how mindfulness helps us recognize those triggers and urges. But what about those moments when the cravings are so intense that it feels impossible to resist? You know, those times when your willpower just seems to evaporate.
Ah, yes, those moments of intense craving can be incredibly challenging. But there's a fascinating technique called urge surfing that can help you ride those waves of desire without getting swept away.
Urge surfing. That sounds intriguing. I'm picturing myself on a surfboard gracefully gliding over those monstrous waves of temptation.
That's a great visual. It's similar to that, except instead of a surfboard, you're using your awareness. Imagine the urge as a wave. It builds crests and then eventually crashes and subsides. Instead of trying to fight the wave, which often just makes it stronger, you learn to observe it, ride it out, and allow it to pass without giving in.
So it's about accepting the urge rather than resisting it. That feels counterintuitive, but I can see how it might take the pressure off.
Exactly. You're not trying to suppress the urge. You're acknowledging its presence, noticing the sensations in your body, the thoughts that arise, and simply allowing it to run its course without acting on it.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. It's like being a curious observer of your internal experience rather than getting caught up in the struggle.
Exactly. And like any skill, urge surfing takes practice. At first, those waves of craving might feel overwhelming. But the more you practice, the more adept you become at riding them out and maintaining your composure.
So it's about building that mental muscle, strengthening our ability to manage those intense urges without letting them control us.
Precisely. And as you become more skilled at urge surfing, you'll notice that those cravings often lose their power over you. They become more like passing clouds in the sky rather than raging storms that threaten to derail your progress.
That's such a reassuring image. It's like you're reclaiming your power in those moments of temptation.
And speaking of reclaiming power, another essential element of habit change is connecting with your trigger. Why is it important for you to break this habit? What are the deeper motivations driving your desire for change?
That's a powerful question. It's easy to get so focused on the mechanics of habit change, the strategies and techniques, that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Your why is your compass, your guiding star. It's
Yeah.
what keeps you motivated and on track, especially when those cravings are strong or you encounter setbacks.
So if I'm trying to quit smoking, my why might be to improve my health so I can keep up with my kids, or to feel more confident in my own skin.
Exactly. Whatever your reasons, write them down, visualize them, create a vision board, or find ways to connect with them regularly. That connection to your why will be your anchor, helping you stay focused and committed to your goal.
It's like that fuel that keeps you going when the tank feels empty.
And speaking of fuel, let's talk about the importance of self-care in this process.
Self-care is essential for overall well-being, but I imagine it's even more crucial when you're trying to break a bad habit, right?
Absolutely. When we're stressed, sleep-deprived, or neglecting our basic needs, our willpower tends to plummet, making us more susceptible to those cravings and urges.
It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach, you're not going to get very far.
Exactly. So make sure you're prioritizing those foundational elements of self-care, getting enough sleep, nourishing your body with healthy foods, moving your body in ways that feel good, and engaging in activities that nourish your mind and soul.
It's about filling your cup so that you have the energy and resilience to navigate the challenges of habit change.
And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential. It's about investing in yourself so that you can show up as the best version of yourself in all areas of your life.
I love that reframing. Self-care is an act of empowerment, not indulgence.
And as we continue exploring the power of mindfulness and habit change, I want to introduce you to a powerful technique that can help you cultivate deeper awareness and manage those cravings more effectively.
I'm all ears. What's this secret weapon?
It's a practice called the body scan. It's a simple yet profound mindfulness meditation that involves bringing your attention to different parts of your body, noticing any sensations that are present without judgment.
Okay, that sounds interesting. How does it work exactly?
Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Close your eyes if you'd like. Now bring your attention to your breath, noticing the rise and fall of your chest or belly as you inhale and exhale. Just observe the natural rhythm of your breath without trying to change it.
Okay, I'm breathing, I'm noticing my breath.
Yeah.
What's next?
Now shift your attention to your feet. Notice any sensations that are present. Perhaps you feel the weight of your feet resting on the ground, the texture of your socks, or a subtle tingling sensation. Just observe those sensations without judgment or trying to change them.
Okay, I'm noticing a slight pressure where my heels touch the floor and a bit of warmth in my toes.
Now slowly move your attention up your body, bringing awareness to each part as you go. Your ankles, calves, knees, thighs, hips. Notice any sensations, whether it's tightness, relaxation, warmth, coolness, or simply a sense of neutral awareness.
Wow, I'm noticing some tension in my hips that I wasn't even aware of before.
That's the power of the body scan. It helps us tune into those subtle sensations that we often ignore or dismiss. As you continue moving your attention up your body, notice your lower back, your upper back, your chest, your shoulders.
I'm starting to feel a sense of relaxation spreading throughout my body. It's like I'm finally tuning in to what's happening inside rather than being stuck in my head all the time.
Exactly. The body scan is a powerful tool for cultivating present moment awareness and developing a deeper connection to your physical experience. And as you practice regularly, you'll become more attuned to your body's signals, including those cravings and urges that often drive our habits.
So the body scan can help us become more aware of those cravings and then hopefully make more conscious choices about how we respond.
Exactly. And as you become more aware of those sensations, you can also start to explore the emotions that might be fueling them. What are you feeling when those cravings arise? Is it stress, boredom, loneliness, or something else?
This is so fascinating. It's like we're becoming detectives of our own inner world, uncovering the clues that can help us break free from those unhealthy patterns.
Exactly. And as you become more skilled at identifying those emotional triggers, you can start to develop healthier coping mechanisms to address them. Instead of reaching for that cigarette when you're feeling anxious, you might realize that what you actually need is a few minutes of quiet time to meditate or a calming walk in nature.
It's about getting to the root of the problem rather than just addressing the symptom.
Precisely. And the more you practice mindfulness, the more you'll start to see those unhealthy habits as simply choices rather than compulsions. You'll realize that you have the power to choose a different path, one that aligns with your values and your vision for yourself.
This is incredibly empowering. I'm starting to see how mindfulness can not only help us break bad habits, but also create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
That's the beauty of it. It's about so much more than just eliminating negative behaviors. It's about cultivating greater self-awareness, self-compassion, and the ability to live a life that truly reflects who you want to be.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive. And I have to say, I'm really starting to see how mindfulness can be a secret weapon in this whole process of transformation.
Yeah, it's not just about breaking those old patterns, it's about cultivating a whole new way of being in the world, you know?
Yeah.
More present, more intentional, and more aligned with our true selves.
I love that. So in the first two parts of this deep dive, we explored a lot of powerful techniques for understanding and managing those habits that have been holding us back. We talked about identifying emotional triggers, rewiring our brains with healthier replacements,
Yeah.
the power of our environment, and of course, the incredible benefits of mindfulness.
Yeah, we even practiced a body scan together, remember? Feeling those sensations, acknowledging them without judgment, that's a powerful way to build self-awareness and start shifting those automatic reactions.
It really is. But I have to admit, even with all these amazing tools, I still worry about those inevitable moments when I might slip up, you
Yeah.
know? It's like that fear of failure is lurking in the background.
It's so common to feel that way, but remember what we talked about earlier. Setbacks are a normal part of the process. In fact, they can be incredibly valuable learning opportunities.
Right. So instead of beating ourselves up when we stumble, we can use those moments to gain insights and refine our approach.
Think of it like this. Each time you slip up, it's a chance to gather data. Ask yourself, what was the trigger? What emotions were present? What could I do differently next time?
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. It's like turning those so-called failures into stepping stones.
Precisely. And here's a practical tip to help you navigate those moments. Create an if-then plan.
An if-then plan. Tell me more about that.
It's like programming your brain for success. You identify a potential trigger situation and then predetermine a healthy response. For example, if I'm feeling stressed after work, then I will take a 20-minute walk before reaching for the snacks.
That's brilliant. It's like having a pre-rehearsed strategy in place so you're not caught off guard when those cravings strike.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off trying to make a decision in the heat of the moment when your willpower might be depleted. You've already decided what you're going to do, so it becomes more automatic.
That's so helpful. I'm definitely going to start implementing that. It takes the guesswork out of it and makes it much more likely that I'll make a healthy choice.
And you know what else can be incredibly supportive in this whole process of change? Creating a positive and supportive environment for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. We talked earlier about the power of our environment in shaping our habits.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly being influenced by our surroundings.
And just as our environment can trigger those unhealthy habits, it can also support us in breaking them. Surround yourself with people who encourage your growth, engage in activities that nourish you, and create a space that reflects your values and aspirations.
So it's like creating a little haven of positive energy that supports your journey rather than tempting you to slip back into old patterns.
Precisely, make it easy to make healthy choices. Stock your fridge with nutritious foods, create a cozy meditation corner, or fill your home with inspiring books and artwork.
I love that. It's about setting yourself up for success by making those positive choices the easy choices.
And speaking of success, remember to celebrate those wins along the way, no matter how small they may seem.
Oh, that's so important. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture and overlook those little victories that keep us motivated.
Each time you resist a craving, choose a healthy alternative, or simply show up for yourself in a way that aligns with your goals. Acknowledge that effort, give yourself a pat on the back, savor the feeling of accomplishment, and allow that positive reinforcement to fuel your journey.
It's like those small wins are the stepping stones that pave the way to lasting change.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a powerful reminder. Be patient with yourself. Change takes time, and it's rarely linear.
That's such a good point. It's easy to get discouraged when we don't see results as quickly as we like. But it's important to remember that this is a journey, not a race.
Absolutely. Some days will be easier than others. There might be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when you feel like giving up. But the key is to keep coming back to your why, to remember the reasons that ignited this journey in the first place.
It's about embracing the process with all its ups and downs and trusting that with persistence and self-compassion, you can achieve anything you set your mind to.
So as you move forward, remember all the amazing tools and insights we've explored in this deep dive experiment. Find what works for you and create a personalized approach to habit change that feels empowering and sustainable.
This has been such an incredible journey.
Mm.
I feel so much more equipped to break free from those habits that have been holding me back and create a life that truly reflects who I want to be.
And remember, you are not alone on this journey. There are countless resources, communities, and individuals who are here to support you. Reach out, connect, and allow yourself to be guided by those who have walked this path before you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into breaking bad habits. But I hope you found these insights and strategies as helpful as I have. Remember, you have the power within you to create the life you desire one small step at a time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Build Strong Habits. Let us know in the comments how you feel about it and what topics you'd love to hear next. Always remember, we're here to build strong habits together.